Welcome into the studios. It's Jason Isbell in the 400 unit live today on the bridge. And it seems, Jason, like this is kind of an unruly group.
They're tough people to be around.
Well, they are named after a Florence, Alabama hospital psych ward.
Yes.
So it's a lot to live up to.
That, I judged the talent show there once at that facility. And it's amazing, that some of them were very, very good. Some of them were just, playing air guitar, but some of them were very good, talented people. And they changed the name. I don't know. Chad's wife works in the same hospital. Did they change the name because of us? I think so. I think it was their fault. So I think our insensitivity forced the hospital group to get creative. Yeah, somebody wore one of our T-shirts into work one day, I think, and everything changed.
Congratulations on the new record, the Nashville Sound. It's out June 16th, and man, is it a great piece of work.
Thank you very much. I would like to say we worked really, really hard on it, but we didn't. We went in. There was hard work done, but it didn't really feel like it because we all like each other's company and we love to work the machine. So it was a joy to be in the studio. Really, I had a great time.
2 weeks of recording, and it was sort of like if you do much more than that, then you're taking some of the spontaneity out.
Yes, taking some of the spontaneity and costing some money.
Now we get to the root of it.
Yeah. Yeah, don't let John Lee Hooker fool you. It's not that he did his best work in 2 days. It's that he wanted another Cadillac. But the truth of the matter is, though, I'm very lucky because this band, I go in and play a song for the band and for Dave Cobb, the producer, and then we all sit down and start playing the song, and within a few hours we have a recording of the song that goes on the album. And that's a luxury because most people aren't as good at listening and learning that quickly as these guys and girl are. So it made the process much easier and much quicker. And as much as I like to be in the studio, I don't like the tedium that starts to take over after a couple of weeks. I don't want to spend months working on something. I don't want to record a bunch of songs we're not going to use. A couple of those max, but I don't want to spend most of my life in the studio because it makes me very anxious after a while, and I start reconsidering the quality of all the work that we're doing, and we want something that does sound human at the end of the day, and I think the best way to do that is to catch everybody when they're caffeinated but not quite awake emotionally.
You mentioned Dave Cobb, and, he's been getting so much great press for the work that he's been doing. And he just sort of recently signed on to run the studio that you recorded it in, the old RCA Studio A. And it's a legendary space, almost lost to a condo.
Almost, yeah.
But, that's the studio that, correct me if I'm wrong, but Dolly Parton did I Will Always Love You.
That's the one, yeah.
And, Chet Atkins was behind it, and I guess his desk is still there.
For a long time, yeah.
Did you feel that when you were recording?
Well, there were certain times when you thought, I better bring my A game because of the room that I'm in and because, you work for a long time. You start off as a kid recording in your friends' basements, and then if you get to a certain point and you're in a big, beautiful studio that Chet Atkins operated and Johnny Cash worked in and Dolly Parton worked in, and really that's where the outlaw country thing was born. I mean, they were called outlaws because they wanted to record there rather than at the studio that their record label owned in Los Angeles. So the record label sort of made fun of Waylon and Willie and said, "Oh, you're outlaws now. Are you going to do it your own way?" And that sort of stuck, and everybody took it way too seriously. But when you get in there, you definitely, there were some moments where we even said, "You're in the RCA studio now. You better not screw this up." We didn't say it with an Iowa accent like I just did, but we said
it. Dave's a little bit different. He likes to stay down in the room with you.
Dave's a weird bird. He's a stranger and a strange man. He doesn't like to get behind the glass. He likes to get in the studio and pretend he's in the band. We let him play the shaker.
The thing that makes this a really good interview is the fact that he's not here to defend himself.
Yes.
If you want to keep going.
He's not here to defend himself. I'll tell you something about Dave Cobb. It's not even his real name. His real name is Madonna. No, he doesn't like to feel like he's judging what the band is doing. He likes to feel like he's participating. And so he's very aware, he's very present. His instincts are great, and he likes to put himself on the same level as the people who are recording, you know. And I think that's kind of ahead of its time. I think there will be a day, and in a lot of musical styles, that's kind of how it is. Producer-driven music, like a lot of the pop that you have nowadays, and R&B and hip-hop and those things, are produced by people who are also recording artists, and they all just collaborate. Everybody works together, and I like that Dave is bringing that to country and rock and roll and all the little things in between. It makes me more comfortable. I think it does the band, and you know, he's got that rare mix of a very talented producer who knows what he's doing, but also makes you feel comfortable and doesn't make you feel inferior. And a lot of the great producers, they get a lot of pride out of being a great producer. And, you know, at the end of the day, you're like, well, he wasn't really even here while we were recording. But Dave, he gets down on the level of the working musician and actually makes the project way better than it would have been otherwise.
It is a collection of spectacular songs, and I cannot wait to be able to play them on the radio. It is called the Nashville Sound. It comes out June 16th. Jason Isbell is our guest. He's playing tonight at the Uptown Theater, part of Inc.'s Middle of the Map, and we'd love to hear some music if we could.
Let's do a song. I've got the whole band here, every one of them. And if you don't mind, I would like to tell you who these people are that are standing up here with me. Derry DeBorja is on the keys, and he's from Baltimore, Maryland. And then my wife, Amanda Shires, she plays the violin, and she sings, and she's from Lubbock, Texas. Chad Gamble, who plays the drums, is from Tuscumbia, Alabama, the birthplace of Helen Keller. Jimbo Hart on the bass guitar is from Sheffield, Alabama, the birthplace of Jimbo Hart. And Sadler Vaden plays the electric guitar. He's from North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, the conception place of half the world's population. Shall we?
I used to think that this was my town. What a stupid thing to think. I hear you biting off a breakdown. I myself am on the brink. I used to want to be a real man. I don't know what that even means. Now I just want you in my arms again, and we can search each other's dreams. I know you're tired and you ain't sleeping well, uninspired and likely mad as hell. But wherever you are, I hope the high road leads you home again. I heard enough of the white man's blues, I sang enough about myself. So if you're looking for some bad news, well, you can find it somewhere else. Last year was a son of a bitch for nearly everyone we know. But I ain't fighting with you down in the ditch. I'll meet you up here on the road. I know you're tired and you ain't sleeping well, uninspired and likely mad as hell. But wherever you are, I hope the high road leads you home again, to the world you wanna live in. We'll ride the ship down, dumping buckets overboard. There can't be more of them than us. There can't be more.
That's the lead track from the new album, The Nashville Sam, performed live by Jason Isbell and the 400 unit here in the Bridge Studios. That has got to be the rockinest song to ever talk about the tone of political discourse that I've ever heard.
I don't know, though, because if you think about it, The Clash had a long career out of talking about things like that. But they didn't necessarily steer you in the same direction, I don't think.
Yeah.
They were more like burn.
Yeah. Well, John Lennon's Revolution was kind of about...
Yeah, it was. Definitely, it covered, I think, the same territory. Yeah, I think I'm trying to find that point of diminishing returns, and I think that's really important when you're attempting to move people in one direction or another, or move them at all. Just if you're trying to make something that speaks to people rather than something that preoccupies them or entertains them, I think you have to find that fine line between, a whisper and a shout. Because if you start yelling, people stop listening.
Yeah,
that's obvious now, I think.
There's been a lot said about how much the album rocks, and you said that the songs kind of determined that for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I stopped trying to do that on purpose a long time ago, just because I found that was a mistake. If your goal is just to write the best songs possible and then record them in the best way possible, in the most natural way, I started noticing songs that were on the radio, and I thought this would make a really good country song. Why didn't they make a country song out of this? Or sometimes the other way around. Sometimes country music that should have been rock. And I decided, well, we're in a genre where we don't have to cater to any particular style of music. So I listen to a lot of different kinds of music. So why not just let the songs be what they want to be?
The album, at least to a certain extent, is informed by the times we live in. Mm-hmm. And you've talked. There's even a song on the album called "White Man's World," and I know that you've sort of been questioning what your role is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's my job, is to question my role. I think to constantly question my role is my job as a white person, as a man, as a father, as a husband, as an artist. I think that's pretty much the best I can hope for, is if I'm always wondering, am I finding the right spot? Am I doing the right work? Am I putting my energy in the right direction? And I think that song deals with, how to come to terms with things you have no control over, because obviously I was, born a white man. So it's the being empathetic and sympathizing, more exactly sympathizing with women and with other ethnicities, other social groups, other cultural groups, without feeling ashamed of something that I can't control, is a fine line. It's a difficult thing, because I learned when I quit drinking, when I was going through a lot of different processes to get recovered, that you can't allow yourself to feel shame over things that you can't control, because that's a rabbit hole. That's a downward spiral. So I try to find, okay, how do I help? How do I help make us all more equal, if at all possible? And that's what I'm trying to do with that song, and really with a lot of the work that I do.
That's all heavy. The other, it's
yeah.
The other part of the album is the inspiration you took from your daughter,
mm-hmm.
and
which to me is even heavier.
Yeah,
yeah. It's like society and all that. Yeah, but my daughter, oh my God, everything's made out of a knife now. And yeah, when she came along, the world got terrifying in an instant. And yeah, you want to be able to see things from that different perspective. I think that's really a gift that she's given me, and Amanda also, as artists, is you learn that, she has to start learning from scratch. She has to figure out that the ground is not part of her feet, before she can figure out how to walk on it. And seeing things from that perspective, I think, is great for anybody who does any kind of creative writing, because, you're always looking for a new way to say things that have been said thousands and thousands of times before. So sometimes if you're looking at it from a foot off the ground, it's a little bit easier to do that.
I love the fact that you're sort of in touch with the fact that, those earliest of days are like, it's almost like this child has no way of knowing that the world isn't just magic.
Of course, yeah, which is one of the most beautiful things about it, and also one of the most heartbreaking things about it, you know. I think the best I can do is not be the guy who shows her how the tricks are done.
Well, I got to tell you, the record is spectacular. It's the Nashville Sound. It comes out June 16th, and we'd love to have another song if we could.
Yeah, let's play another song.
There's an answer here if I look hard enough. There's a reason why I always reach for the harder stuff. It wasn't my daddy's way. He was down in the mines all day. I know he wanted more than mouths to feed and bills to pay. Maybe the Cumberland Gap just swallows you whole. Maybe the Cumberland Gap just swallows you whole. I ain't cut out for war, unless I know what I'm fighting for. And there's nothing here but churches, bars, and grocery stores. There ain't much money in the old time mandolin. So I cash my check and I drink till I'm on my ass again. Maybe the Cumberland Gap just swallows you whole. Maybe the Cumberland Gap just swallows you whole. Maybe the Cumberland Gap just swallows you whole. Remember when we could see the mountains peak, the sparkle of the emperor, like a giant golden eagle's beak. Now they say no one wants to go. I thought about moving away, but what would my mama say? Well, I'm all that she has left, and I'm with her every day. So as soon as the sun goes down, I find my way to the Mustang Lounge. And if you don't sit facing the window, you could be in any town. Maybe the Cumberland Gap just swallows you whole. Maybe the Cumberland Gap just swallows you whole. Maybe the Cumberland Gap just swallows you whole. Maybe the Cumberland Gap just swallows you whole.
That one is called Cumberland Gap, and it's one of the tracks that's going to appear on the Nashville Sound out June 16th. And it's just so great of you to come in and play these songs so far in advance of
I'll
the
tell
record
you what's
coming.
great is for you guys to play our music on the radio. Nobody does that. It's amazing.
Yeah, well, you know, I think that's not exactly accurate, but we'll take the compliment.
Compared to how many people there are in the world, there's very few people playing our music on the radio. That's
Yeah.
for sure. Because they can't find a format, you know. The good stations that can play all kinds of stuff, they play it. But what is it? Rock and roll? Is it country? What is it? What is this? What even is this we're doing? Nobody knows.
Yeah, we've kind of figured out over time that it's really hard to describe the music. So the easiest way to approach it is to describe the listeners.
Yeah.
And it's just people who want a little bit more.
That's awesome. I like that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to tell people sitting next to me on airplanes from now on. Oh, we make music for people who want a little bit more. You guys have any of the chicken left? Probably not.
You know, the thing about Cumberland Gap is it's a pretty good example of one of your songs where it's about a character that isn't you, but it's your truth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm always going to find myself in there, you know. I'm always going to wander into my own songs. I can't really keep that from happening. I think that's probably how I keep things honest. And sometimes I'll use these sort of character-driven stories to work my way through something, figure out how I feel about something that's going on in my own life. And sometimes I use them to come to terms with the person that I used to be, or one of the people that I used to be. And, I grew up in a part of the country that didn't have really the representation, I think, that a lot of America might have. We were right there in the middle in rural Alabama, and a lot of people felt and still feel like nobody really cares about them at all, and it's hard to argue with that these days. So sometimes I try to write songs about those folks, and through that process, I hope to understand them and myself a little bit better.
Did that technique as a storytelling, songwriting device become real for you through John Prine?
In a way, yeah. I mean, John was the first person who did anything that I recognized as being completely untrustworthy from the narrator's perspective. Because there was a moment when I was very young when I thought, this is not an old woman singing this song, He just said, I'm an old woman. He's not an old woman at all. And so then the light bulb went off, and I thought, well, I can be an old woman too one day. Yeah. If I keep this up, I can be an old woman just like John. But Amanda and I and the band, we spent a lot of time with John over the last few years, and realized that he sees things in a certain way, I think, that make it possible for him to empathize with those characters, and he can write from somebody else's point of view and do it in a way that's very honest because he actually cares. That's really what it comes down to. And for me, it would be real hard for me to write about coal miners in Appalachia if I didn't care about coal miners in Appalachia. But I remember we used to play in this little town in Kentucky, Whitesburg, Kentucky, that went wet after decades, generations of not selling any alcohol in the town. And I remember we were sound checking, and we walked out of this little, it was a coffee shop really that they just put in a, temporary PA, and it was a long time ago. And we walked out on the sidewalk, and there was a guy just covered in soot, head to toe, just covered, and he was holding a beer and just staring at it. And to me, it looked like that's the first one he'd been able to buy when he got off of work, And I thought, man, nobody needs a beer more than this guy, And ever since then, I've kind of had those folks on my brain, and I think that guy's probably who this song is about.
There's a song on the record, "The Last of My Kind," which just seems like your John Prine song.
Yeah, I think that's probably how I describe it to you. I was like, I wrote a song that is my John Prine song today. But I have a lot of John Prine songs.
Yeah.
It's a good thing that I'm his friend because he's not going to sue me.
Well, that one seems so lighthearted, and then it goes and there's greater lyrical depth that takes you by surprise, which is something that Prine does a lot.
He does it really well, and that's how the day goes. That's how your life goes. Everything's lighthearted. You get up, you drink your coffee, and then, the stones start falling on your head out of nowhere. I mean, that's how it always happens. Nobody lives in total darkness, and nobody lives in total light. So I think, really, to capture the human experience as well as possible, you have to do that. You have to say, I was just going along, minding my own business, when all of a sudden,
Yeah. You and Amanda came and played for us here in Kansas City not too terribly long ago, opening up for John.
Yeah.
And it was it's my favorite show in quite some time. I absolutely adored it from start to finish. And I'm really glad that you introduced the band, because I was going to ask you to do that, because I really wanted to see how you'd handle it, because that night you got introduced as Mr. Amanda Shires.
Mr. Amanda Shires, yes. Yes, Mr. Shires. I don't mind.
The band leader did that to you.
Yeah, I've been called a lot worse than Mr. Shires, that's for sure. Today. John got a little tangled up a couple nights ago. We played a show with him, and he introduced me as Amanda's better half. And that's not true at all. I said I'm the lucky third in this relationship. But, she lived here. You lived here for a while in Kansas City. You lived here. Where did you go?
Redbridge Elementary.
Redbridge.
And then I went to Redemptress.
Redemptress. That sounds like a blog.
when you credited her to Lubbock, Texas, I just imagined all the elementary students at Redbridge shaking their fists and beginning to march down here with
She's
pitchforks.
a tough one to pin down. I'm surprised I've kept her in the same place for 5 years.
I have nothing to say to that.
But she does speak fondly of this town, and she's still got a lot of family here.
Jason Isbell in the 400 unit joining us today. The new album, The Nashville Sound, is out June 16th at the Uptown Theater tonight. Love to hear one more song if we could.
Let me turn this old box, this old axe. This one's really sad.
Chad doesn't like this one.
Chad's out of here. This one doesn't have any drums on it, so I'd like to unintroduce Chad Gamble from Tuscumbia, Alabama.
It's not the long flowing dress you're in, or the light coming off of your skin, the fragile heart you've protected for so long, or the mercy in your sense of right and wrong. It's not your hand searching slow in the dark, or your nails leaving love's watermark. It's not the way you talk me off the roof. Your questions like directions to the truth. It's knowing that this can't go on forever. Likely one of us will have to spend some days alone. Maybe we'll get 40 years together. But one day I'll be gone. Or one day you'll be gone. If we were vampires and death was a joke, we'd go out on the sidewalk and smoke and laugh at all the lovers and their plans. I wouldn't feel the need to hold your hand. Maybe time running out is a gift. I'll work hard till the end of my shift to give you every second I can find, and hope it isn't me who's left behind. Knowing that this can't go on forever. Likely one of us will have to spend some days alone. Maybe we'll get 40 years together. But one day I'll be gone. And one day you'll be gone. Knowing that this can't go on forever. Likely one of us will have to spend some days alone. Maybe we'll get 40 years together. But one day I'll be gone. And one day you'll be gone.
You know, one of the things about radio is they always tell you to not have any dead air.
Yeah.
You know, and that song deserves a little dead air.
Oh, well, thank you. That's a hard one to get through sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have to think about baseball or
Well, you know, I passed the headphones upstairs to somebody today. Couldn't make it through the song.
yeah. That was hard. The first few times I sang it, I couldn't do it. It was hard.
And You really feel weird when you're crying at your own song.
It's weird. There's something just terribly, terribly egotistical about crying at something you just made up. Oh my God, this is so beautiful. I can't survive it. Yeah, it's that's really weird. That's like laughing at your own joke times 10, isn't it?
Just the line of maybe time running out is a gift. You know, the fact that it just sort of adds meaning. It's like you just can't take things for granted.
Yeah, and if we were here forever, we wouldn't have any motivation to take anything away from it, to get anything out of it. You know, I think maybe the best thing of all is death, because that's the only reason any of us get up in the morning. It's the only reason any of us fall in love. It's the only reason any of us care about anything. Is because one day we're going to be dead.
And, you know, I think that accepting that is one of the things that sort of removes fear of death in a way. It's part of that cycle.
Yeah,
So,
some cultures figured that out a long time ago and spread it around and got used to it. And I'm still terrified of death. I'm terrified of other people's death, especially, but I'm also terrified of my own. But it helps a little bit to think of what a great purpose it serves, you know, to sort of hold us to the fire.
you know, I'm done. I'm out. I just don't want to say goodbye. You know, thank you for coming in here and sharing your music. The new album is really a gift.
Thank you so much.
And your time today is a gift, and to the 400 unit as well. And Amanda, I told you before the set, that was just an amazing set that you did before John Prine, and it's an honor to have you in the studio as well.
You're lucky you didn't see the first time I opened for John Prine. That was a disaster.
I had one of those experiences too. It's scary, you know. John doesn't make it scarier. He tries to help and calm me down, but I mean, it's like, you know, it's like flying in front of Superman, you know.
Yeah, he's something. But you all are too. And the new album is The Nashville Sound. It's out June 16th. They're playing tonight at the Uptown Theater, part of Middle of the Map. Thanks so much, Jason
Thank
Isbell.
you. It's always a joy to come in here and talk to you and play. So thank you very much for having us.
Thank you. Jason Isbell in the 400 unit on the bridge.